For the next 30 days, I'm going to be trying this. And this is the Whoop 4.0 Health and Fitness Tracker. So the Whoop comes with a few different components. Now, this is the main component. This is the fitness tracker itself. And what I like about this is that you don't need to wear it on your wrist. You can wear it on your bicep. There's even underwear you can buy to completely hide it. Another bonus thing that I do like is the charging unit. You never take the Whoop off. You charge up the charging unit, then clip that on, and ultimately that charges while you continue to use it. So you can continue to monitor your sleep, your data, etc. I have no idea what the charge is going to be like, but I'll update that as I go through the challenge. Step number 1 is downloading the app from the App Store. So I have the Whoop set up and the app good to go now. I don't have a strap big enough to go in my bicep like planned.
Ooh, you're hard showing off.
Obviously just comes with a wrist strap. Now, I've set up the Whoop app, which has taken nothing more than 5 minutes to get everything good to go. And you're then sort of faced with a few options. You've got your overview, you've got sleep, you've got recovery and strain. And there's a sort of educational video from one of their staff walking you through each aspect. Now, of course, I have zero data at this point, so I don't really have anything to work through.
Nothing to see here, please!
My only action points these first few days are wear it and get to work. That's it. So we'll see how that goes over the next couple of days. So time to get to work. So it's morning 1 after wearing the Whoop for the first day. Got use of the app, started to understand the data. I'll put it on screen now, but you can set up things like a journal where you go over specific habits that you may have done the day before. I found that really interesting because then it ties the behaviours of maybe zone 2 cardio or training with weights or hopping into an ice bath or a sauna with how you're actually performing. And it will give you real-time information and how that actually impacts you. So I think that's exceptionally beneficial. I have been very impressed with this setup so far. You have things like an AI coach that can help improve your HRV or help improve your sleep or make recommendations. Again, I don't really have any data at the moment because I'm only sort of less than 24 hours in here, but I'm very impressed with the setup of everything so far. So it's time for a week 1 update on my use of the Whoop. Now we're going to dive into a screen recording of all the various aspects and give you a detailed look. To give you a quick high level view on what I think so far, I'm very impressed with the detail of the analytics around sleep, recovery, strain, etc. The one criticism I do have is that it doesn't track steps, and I really enjoy tracking my steps, so my Apple Watch tends to be superior in that regard. But from an activity, workout, strain, sleep, recovery perspective, I think this is actually a much superior device to the Apple Watch personally. But let's dive into the screen and walk through some of the specifics here. So this is the dashboard, and it takes a few days for you to get an understanding of your own metrics and for you to figure out your baselines. Ultimately, there are a few elements to this. There's the overview, there's the sleep section here, which kind of gives you an overview of your sleep. Recovery, which takes a variety of metrics in, and then you have strain as well, which is essentially your output. Now, one thing that I do like is you can record your activities for the day like an Apple Watch as well. This kind of gives you an insight into stress monitoring as well, this aspect here. So this kind of gives a breakdown of high, low, and medium stress. And again, it's just an indication of how to manage these, and as you progress with the Whoop, what will essentially happen is it will be able to give you recommendations over time. Down the bottom here, I like this portion. This is sort of strain and recovery. So the strain and recovery section here kind of gives you an overview of how it looks day to day from a recovery standpoint. That's my greens and yellows, and then the strain is the blues. Now the top score here is 21, and there's a video libraries etc that coach you through all of this, but ultimately you want to get that high consistently, and it kind of gives you a recommendation as well. I try not to pay too much attention to this because I don't want to set myself up to have a lazy day or a day off if I feel like it, but ultimately it can be a good metric to manage your recovery if you're a particularly stressed or busy individual as well. So scrolling up to the top here, taking a look at some of the recovery metrics. I have been incredibly ill over the last week, so it's actually been interesting to see my heart rate variability, which is a measure of your stress, my resting heart rate, and my breathing rate all being influenced and picked up by the Whoop when I was unwell. Now, further to this, the more detailed looking cardio, if you take a look at my running here, it breaks it down into the zones and gives a much more detailed breakdown. The one criticism I do have with this is it doesn't link to Strava. I like to track my runs in Strava. It doesn't seem to automatically populate. You have to put it in manually at the moment. So I don't like that missing integration, but you can have everything. The sleep portion here is probably the most comprehensive I have seen. It gives you a more detailed breakdown of when you're asleep, how much you're waking up, what sort of restorative sleep you're getting, what sort of REM sleep you're getting. I feel this is much more accurate than the Apple Watch. I feel like the Apple Watch tracks very surface level performance with regards to sleep. This again tends to give recommendations and needs required as well, which again I think is helpful. However, I never hit the sleep needed targets. I am always miles off. Like, it needs me in bed 10, 11 hours if I want to apparently perform at 100%. I just don't have the time to do that. I genuinely don't. And then this is just looking at my overall sleep-wake times again. Getting some consistency here and having a schedule like this can be pretty key. And here's an overview of my restorative sleep, which is the deep sleep. So you can see the effect here is pretty substantial in terms of the level of detail that it goes to. So if you're interested in sleep recovery performance, I think this can be an incredible device for you to use, better than the Apple Watch for sure. And here's my overall recovery. For the most part, I'm okay today. I'm actually the lowest I've been. And you can actually see that with things like resting heart rates and respiratory rates increasing. So again, it kind of all ties together. Again, the only criticism I have on the strain here is I don't have a quantifiable way to really measure that yet outside of strain. I like to track my activity, my cardiovascular output. So that's my only criticism, but overall, really liking this device so far. So I'm at day 30 on the Whoop 4.0 trial, and the big question is, am I going to continue the use of the Whoop? The short answer is yes, I am. I'm going to pay for the subscription, I'm going to get the annual and see how I go. I'm not a huge fan of the model, of the subscription model, ultimately. I'd rather just pay for the device and then I have it, but I am going to keep it. And there's a couple of key features here that I think are the best out of the entire process, and I'm going to dive right into them now. So you can see I have the coaching tab here, which is down the bottom left. Now, it gives you insights into recovery, how I'm performing, what behaviours and habits really start to impact. Now, you'll see sort of 5 ones here. These are the main ones, but it does give you a more detailed breakdown. So my sleep performance, obviously getting a plus 81% score, dramatically improves my recovery. Doing an early workout as opposed to a late workout, again, as you can see here, also has an impact. And then you have various different habits and behaviours that ultimately you can customise your journal to. So I found that really insightful, and I really enjoyed that part of it. Now, what you can also get here is some overall weekly reports. So if I again go to the coaching tab and click overview up the top here, it then allows me to get a sort of detailed weekly report. It will give you an overview, for example, in here my strain was optimal but my sleep could be improved. That's going to be a general trend for me personally. Strain, again, the average of how hard I worked. I really noticed that the strain drastically increases when you do cardiovascular exercise as opposed to strength training work. So this sort of pushes you to perform from a strength training base. As you can see here, there's various tiers, with the running being the most, let's say, strain inducing. So there's various ways you can use this. And it's looking at my hours of sleep, these hours of need. Again, you get some really detailed reports. So my overall summary of the Whoop is something I will personally continue to use. If your goal is to focus on improving your stress level, improving your recovery, optimizing your sleep, monitoring your heart rate and the effects your training has, I don't know of anything better. Again, I'm going to continue to improve and test other options here, but for me, this really is a standout performer. I absolutely love the data here from a recovery standpoint. The shortcomings, as I said, from an activity tracking perspective, I like to know what my steps are, I like to know what my activity is. I believe it's a very important metric. That's my one shortfall or grievance with it. There is a calorie burn, etc. in there as well, which kind of makes up for it in the strain factor, but I do much prefer just a general activity counter. So that's my one complaint, if you like. For me, the only other point was I didn't like the subscription model, as already mentioned, but outside of that, a great device that I'm going to continue to use. If you enjoy this video, go and check out one of our trending videos, which is I tried Peter Attia's longevity test. Put yourself through it, let me know how you get on, and comment your score below. That is the next step after this one.